I'm headed to the airport in a few hours. It's the morning of the 27th of February, like in the middle of the night, but you're seeing this the 4th of March, hopefully at least. I'll be away for a week, so I had to get this filmed before I left. I'm playing my comeback show in Barcelona with Tiesto tomorrow, and then we're headed to Amsterdam to make tracks together and with other producers there for a week, which I'm super excited and nervous for. Anyways, I asked you guys to send stems of tracks last week, and I'm gonna try and mix some of them now before I leave. This is a small snippet of each track before and after. By the way, for the free mastering of this week is Ariadna Hunter Hidalgo. Congrats! And again, I'll choose one of the first 200 commenters to do a free mastering of a song this week as well. But sorry for rambling, let's go down to the studio. So the first track is from a guy called Chumash. Thank you so much for sending. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm going to mix this how I like it. I'm not the best mixer out there, but I'm just gonna do it how I like it to sound. And I'm probably gonna like add some stuff or replace stuff, but we'll see as it goes. So let's listen quickly. First of all, it's a really cool track. I like the melody and the vibe is really dope. So it's pretty well mixed. I'm just gonna go ahead and see what I can do with it. Let's see, I'll just put everything into mixer channels first and start with the main sound. It's a really good melody, I like it a lot. But what I do is I would have put the sub in a separate thing, but I don't have that right now. So first and foremost, it's a bit muddy, around like 400 hertz. .300 actually. And I'm gonna boost the highs a bit. But I want the highs here, but I don't want the clickiness, or at least a little bit less of it. So I'm gonna, reduce the attack. And I'm gonna boost more of the top highs with this CQ. I'm also gonna put a slight distorter. I like to slightly distort everything to help with just keeping the transients in one place. Then a sidechain actually. Now the problem here is, since the sub isn't separate, I'm gonna have to make one separate layer so that we can sidechain it differently. So I'm gonna keep this one with 100% sidechain. Gonna cut at, so we have the sub, and then we can cut this again at 100. So we can sidechain it differently, because I usually don't like using a really harsh sidechain on the main leads, which contains the melody. I like that a lot more. I would maybe even reduce some of the sustain here. It's a bit too much reverb. And I would also add like a pluck on top to define the melody a bit more, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So let's head into the claps here. Oops. Sound pretty good, but I'm gonna add see. They sound a bit too roomy to me. So I'm gonna do the same thing and remove some of the reverb. Just keep it a bit tighter. I'm gonna go into the Vengeance claps. Oh shit. Maybe actually use some more snarey sound with a pre. I like that. It's gonna create more of that snap and give it some groove and right. Just adds a little bit roughness to it. Without. With. I like that. And I'm also gonna work a bit fast because I have to make this flight. So bear with me. Let's see this kick. It's competing a bit with the sub. So I'm gonna sidechain the sub a bit more. And I'm also thinking the top end of the kick could be a bit less digital, if that makes sense. I'm gonna go into my kicks and I'm gonna add this one, I think. Yeah, I think so. It has some noise to the top and it sounds a bit more analog, if that makes sense. I can even actually just do it like this so that the initial attack doesn't compete with each other. And also EQ this a bit, because there's something here about it I don't like. Yeah, it's this one. This sounds really digital to me. Other than that, it's a great kick, I think. I like that better. And with this, it's a bit weird key. Doesn't sound too bad. We can work with this, I think. So oops. All right, let's move on to this one. That's a pretty cool effect. Let's see. I think I'll just put a sidechain because it's unnecessary that it doesn't have that sidechain bounce. I'll just put it in straight away when the kick hits. And I think that groove feels better. I actually like that when it's a bit short. When I do this sidechaining and stuff, you sort of have to choose one that you're gonna go for, in my experience at least, so that you have a similar feel. I like that. It's not too, it sounds a bit more natural to me. And I also, because there's a lot going on in the center here, and I wanna pan stuff a bit more. I'm just gonna check if I'm recording. Yes, I am. So I'm gonna, because you don't, one, you don't really need that in the middle, and two, the ear catches the high frequencies a lot when they pan, so that I can reduce this in volume actually if I pan it, because then it's more interesting, but I can keep it lower in the mix, so I just save some space really in the mix. Because you have to think of the mix like a 3D box, where there's a limited space to how much you can put in it. So now it sounds a lot more, you can really hear it a lot more when it's panning around. So I can put it lower in the mix, as I said. I'm also gonna add one more white noise to help that one, which I'm gonna keep for only the first beat here. And this is something I'm doing if like the effect hits on the one without sidechain, is I just keep it like slightly off the kick so that the initial kick impact has its own space. So this is just to really accentuate and get some power into the mix. So at least I like it. Let's move on to this thing. Sounds really cool, disco-y feel. I'm gonna boost the sides here. Add some reverb, room reverb, so that it gets even more affected. And also a delay, just to keep that going into the drop, because I really like that character. It adds some uniqueness to the song. I think I'm just gonna keep it like this pretty much. Now that's in the middle, so usually I would pan that around, but since I already have the white noise panning around, I'm a bit unsure if I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna be a bit more chilled with the sidechain on that one, so that it doesn't hit the first time, which is why I'm gonna just cut this out, so that it sort of moves into it. Let's see what else we have here. I really want it to be a bit wider, so I'm gonna double up the lead and pitch it up, probably pan it to the side, and do the same with a different layer and pan them to either side. I'm actually gonna pitch it slightly differently, because then it's easier to get that wide feel when it's a bit different, and you also have to do this just so that they're a bit off. It's gonna make it sound wider. This is what I felt lacked, because you really wanted to hear that melody more, I felt, in this track, because that's a really strong point of the track. Now that sounds a bit whack, but I think it's gonna work in the mix. That's sick. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I can even add some more reverb to this one. That sounds dope, I think. So that's some bit crush maybe. Just really adds some interesting element. This character of the snare doesn't really fit with the rest, I think, so I'm gonna try and find a new one. I think that fits a bit better. Now I want to make it a bit wider, so I'm going to cut out the mids here and add some reverb. This is something I spent a lot of time on, just finding like the right drum samples that fit with the rest of the sounds. So that didn't fit, and I'm just gonna try one more time. If it doesn't work now, then I think maybe something more percussive could fit. Even in the right key, that was lucky. Alright, let's call it quits there. I'm just gonna add some distortion to the main clap he already had. I really like distortion. That was a bit cool, but alright, let's move on. Not really anything to do with that. Sounds cool. Oh wow. The kick, it annoys me a bit. I can't put my finger on why. But let's continue. Let's look at this piano stack that comes in here and the vocal slices. For one, they take up a lot of space in here. They really fight in the low mids. And you can't really hear the difference either. That's with and that's without. Just sounds less muddy. I actually want to try and get them a bit more to the sides here to make space for the stuff in between. I mean the main bass thing. And the same sidechain. Was that 70 and 70? Sounds a bit too digital as well, the piano. Let's try to get some coloring on it. That gives it a bit more movement, makes it sound a bit more human, if you can say that. Some tube distortion always sounds good, at least to me. All right. The same thing here. Just copying it over. Feel like that should go twice there and hit again, but just a bit lower volume just to keep that continuity. Let's look at these. Again, don't really need some of this. Could maybe just make it a bit less clean. And add some reverb to add it into the space because it's really clean. Let's see. They sound a bit messy, but alright. The drum loop. I like to keep some slight sidechain even on the drum loops and shakers and stuff like that. Just really helps with gluing everything together, I think. Don't really need the lows here, I think. Could also spark it up a bit. because now I'm like hitting the resonant frequencies of that, the perkish sound, so I wanted to get that one out, so I'm boosting that one a little bit. I like that character a bit better. Bring out the shakers a bit and distort it. And I think we're good to go. The kick and snare is a big problem, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna go back and fix that now. I have to see. Alright, I've been filming for 26 minutes. It's gonna be a tie one. I'm gonna make the kick a bit shorter. Still competing in the sub. I like to, the reason why I'm recording at such a low master volume is just because we're recording through like external recorder, and it just has to be down there if you're wondering. But what I like to do is I like to put an invisible limiter on while I mix. I've spoken about this in other videos, like the mastering one, because then I can sort of hear how it's going to sound when it's mastered. So I'm honestly out of time right now because I have to catch this plane. I was actually thinking of doing 3 tracks in one, but I'm just gonna do the 2 other ones in the next video. So I'm gonna show you guys the first result, and I mean the result before and then after the mixing now. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something, even if it was a bit rushed, but yeah, see you guys next week.